name's Ruth and it is my absolute privilege to welcome you to KC Anytime Sunday. We're so glad you could join us today for an amazing time of worship, a message that will be challenging and encouraging, and we also have some other special features for you to enjoy. Sit back, relax, and let's start off with some praise and worship to our faithful and loving God. Enjoy.
Set your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increase in us, we pray. Unveil while we're made. Come set our hearts ablaze with hope, like wildfire in our very soul. Holy Spirit, come, invade us now. Your church, and we need your power in us. We seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. We refuse to waste our lives for your joy and fight. To see the captive hearts released, the hurt, the sick, the poor in peace. We lay down our life for heaven's call, and we are your church. Pray, revive yourself. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hands. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Unleash your kingdom's power, reaching the near and far. The force of hell can't stop your beauty changing hearts. You made us for much more than this. Awake the kingdom seed in us. Fill us with the strength and love of Christ. And we are your church. We are the hope of earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hands. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. When this nation
stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all would come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not faint. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. And on that day, when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. Lord, I'll worship your holy name.
Hi, church. Welcome to another KYA Anytime. Today we are joined by Nathan Large. Hi, Nathan.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's been your highlight of lockdown so far, a top moment?
Well, I went to the park on Monday with my cousins, so it was nice to see them.
Nice to see people to get outside again. Makes a difference. How's Penny doing?
Good. She's been going her daily walk.
Brilliant, excellent. Right, we are going to play a game. We're going to play a classic 20 questions card game. I've got a character in mind, and Nathan is going to ask me questions to try and get to who I am thinking about. At home, you can see if you can get there before Nathan does. Are you ready, Nathan?
Yes.
Brilliant. Right, let's go. Question number 1.
Is it a male?
Yes, it is a man.
Yeah. Are they in a movie?
Yes, they are in a movie.
Are they the main character?
Yes, they are main character.
Is it a Marvel movie?
No, it's not Marvel.
Is it a sport movie?
I think he is in sports movies, yeah. Yes. Yes. But not just sports movies.
Yeah. Is he in a comedy?
Yeah, he's been in comedies.
Is it kids movies?
He has been in a kids movie.
Is it a superhero?
I mean, to me, he's definitely a superhero. No, I don't think he has played a superhero yet.
Is he in like fighting movies?
Definitely.
Is his movies like a series?
He's got a series of movies, yeah, but he's got lots of movies.
Is it a character?
It's an actual person, but he's also a character.
Yeah, okay. Is it James Bond?
It's not James Bond, no. That's you at 11.
I don't know.
So we know it's a man. We know he's in movies, action movies, actor, lots of movies. Oh, the clogs are turning. Clogs? Cogs. Panic in your face, Nathan. Right, okay, do you want a clue?
Yeah, I'll take a clue.
Take a clue, right. Let me think of a clue that isn't too easy. Acting wasn't the first thing that he did.
Did the thing he used to do before that involving entertainment?
Yes, it was entertainment.
Was it singing?
No, it wasn't singing.
How many questions am I on?
13. So we got 7 to go. I believe in you. Got a second clue?
Yeah.
Thinking more sports entertainment.
Was that a wrestler?
It's a wrestler, yeah.
Oh, I can't think of his name. John Cena.
No, it's not John Cena. That's 15. You got 5 to go.
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson. It's The Rock. Well done. You got there. Maybe some whispers from the background to help you get it. 16 questions. So if you can get The Rock or Dwayne Johnson in less than 16, then you've beaten Nathan. Right, Nathan, we asked you to look up a verse that meant a lot to you and tell us why. Have you got one there for us?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
It's Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, and it's, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Brilliant. Why does that mean something to you just now or in general?
I think I just learned it when I was younger, and just reminds me that God gives me strength for everything that I do.
Brilliant. So it kind of sticks by you in good times and difficult times. God is there, giving you the strength to carry on.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we hope everyone enjoys the rest of the service. Bye.
Good morning. How are you? I hope you're having a good Sunday so far. I'm Zoe, I'm part of the KC, and today we are beginning a brand new series called How to Get Through What You're Going Through. It'll involve spending some time looking at the ideas and advice and wisdom that we can find in the book of Philippians about exactly that. This week, as part of the KC, we've encouraged you all to read that book of the Bible. Some of the KYE guys actually read it for you as well in a video, so if you haven't had the chance to do that yet, it might be a good idea this morning or this afternoon, whenever you're watching this, just to pause it, read it on your own, read it as a family, or watch the KYE guys reading it to you. Shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes, and it will just help you have some context if we're jumping about a little bit. So I don't know about you, but there are certain people that I would go to for advice on certain things. So if I want advice about maybe fitness and health, I might go to my sister-in-law, Sarah. If I've got a problem in terms of the politics of teaching or an issue at my work, then I might go to Lindsay May. If I need advice on DIY or really anything to do with my home at all, then I go to Dave and Barbara. I go to the people that I know have experience in that area, who can talk from a place of real kind of understanding and knowledge. I might tell my dad that I was putting some shelves up, but I would never ask him for any input on it because he's never lifted a hammer in his life. I would be straight to Big Dave instead. We want advice from the people who we know we can trust to give it wisely because they've lived that same experiences or situations as well. Today we are going to be looking at Paul's advice during maybe difficult times or even just for our day-to-day lives, how to get through what we're going through. It's clear through Philippians, but if we jump straight in at chapter 4 verse 4, we see what he tells us time and time again. He says, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I'll say rejoice. Then in verse 12 he goes on to explain, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Rejoice, no contentment. This doesn't sound like my experiences, even just in these past 12 weeks or so. It probably doesn't sound like all of yours. However, let me tell you, Paul is someone whose advice we can take in these times. He's someone whose advice we can trust in these situations. Why is that? Well, Paul didn't have it easy. He was hated by many, feared by some Christians who didn't believe his conversion, by Jews who thought he preached blasphemy, thrown in prison time and time again. In fact, we heard just last week from Emma about a time he was in prison with Silas, accused of causing unrest, and we can see that he lived his own advice in that time and what she talked about, rejoice, praise. I was going to summarise some of the experiences that Paul had, but actually we can read his own summary in 2 Corinthians 11:23 to 28. So let's read that just now. I've been in prison so frequently, been flogged severely, been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones, 3 times I was shipwrecked, I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I've laboured and toiled. I've often gone without sleep. I've known hunger and thirst, and have often gone without food. I've been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. So over June, we'll be spending time in Philippians. When writing this letter, Paul's under house arrest, and so he's effectively in a form of lockdown, similar to us in the past few months and presently, but with even more limits on what he could do or where he could go, much more extreme, and with the threat of execution hanging over him. So we know he has experienced many forms of suffering, of isolation, of difficulty, and yet here he is saying, rejoice in the Lord always. This is a man who knows how to get through what you're going through, and whose advice we can listen to as we look into it in the coming weeks. So, how has Paul been able to get to this place of being able to rejoice in his circumstances? Well, today we're going to focus in on what he focuses on, where his perspective is, maybe compared to ours sometimes. I don't know about you, but over the past few months, a lot of my thinking has centred around the next big date or the next big announcement. What dates am I rotated into my hub at work? When are they going to make a decision about exams? When am I going to be allowed to go out for exercise more than twice a day, sorry. When am I going to be able to visit my mum in her garden? When am I going to go back to work? Although I say that very loosely, all you teacher haters, because teachers have been working this whole time. But now that I've got answers, now that I've finally reached those points that I was looking forward to, there's other dates that I'm waiting on. So when am I going to be allowed to hug my family? When will we be back together as a church? When can I get these routes sorted? When can I use my friend's toilet? You know, all the big questions. And I think our lives are always a bit like that. I don't know about you, but I'm all about a plan. So maybe plans for my holiday next year, for my career, for my home, 3-year plans, 10-year plans. But this has been kind of amplified in lockdown to the point where everyone's simultaneously waiting on the same thing, for this to all be over. Our eyes have been fixed on that day when we are told it's safe to hug those that we love, that we're not putting others at risk by doing that sort of thing. But let's look to Paul, who's under house arrest and lockdown. His eyes aren't fixed at all on the end of his sentence, on the date of his trial, on the judgment day in terms of his execution. All he is looking toward, all he is focused on is the day of Christ. So if we jump back into Philippians, chapter 1 verse 6 reads, "And I am certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it is finally finished on the day of Christ Jesus." And then we see it again in chapter 1 verse 10. "You may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ." Paul's focus isn't on the day that lockdown will end at all, or on what happens next week or next year. It's all on the day of Christ. So what is this day of Christ, and why is that a source of joy? Why does that let him rejoice? Well, the Bible speaks about a day when the reality of our lives will be made clear. In one sense, we can sometimes shy away from that because we know that there's bits of our lives that we don't want anyone else to see. But in another sense, we do all long for that kind of authenticity, for realness, to not just be in a kind of permanent insta reality. And that is what the day of Christ is when Paul talks about it here. It's the day when the really real will come into the light. What's fake and what's counterfeit will be shown up. It says, "Wheat will be separated from chaff, the sheep from the goats." Now, that's not that relevant to our time right now, but these are things that are valuable from the things that are imitations. The real nourishing stuff will be separated from the fake. The foundations of our lives will be shown up. Are we just kind of putting on a show, or was there a solid reality to our life? Now, that might sound scary, but Paul is looking forward to it. And that is where the good news of the gospel comes in, because God offers our verdict just now. He'll tell us what will be shown on that day, and we've got a choice either to take our chances in terms of how we've lived, or to simply say, I'm going to accept Jesus, I'm going to accept what he's done, I'm going to hand my credit rating over to him. And as a Christian, you can be confident, like Paul, that the day of Christ is coming and that you will be judged through Jesus and saved. But if this is new to you, maybe you've just joined us during lockdown, or maybe you just need a reminder, you might be interested to know in why we can feel so confident and what Paul's able to rejoice over. I was watching something quite recently. It's quite common in TV. They've all kind of gone to an AA meeting. It's the opening session and they're all introducing themselves, and quite often they just use it to get to know the characters. But it kind of struck me, the first step of AA, or of quite a lot of these programmes, was the idea that you are powerless over your problems. It struck me that that's the central idea of a lot of these kind of things, but actually it's at opposition with what the world tells us quite a lot, which is that we can handle it. Actually, I think there does come a point in our lives when we do realise that there's stuff happening around us that we have very little control over, that we are flawed on the inside, and that the only way we can make it is with outside help. I think it's a question we've all reached at some point. What intervention is there for me? Who can rescue me from this? What must I do to be saved? I want to turn to the story of Charles Spurgeon, who was out one Sunday in 1850 when a crazy snowstorm hit, a snowpocalypse, if you will. And so he took shelter inside a church in the village that he was passing through, just to get off his journey. So there's only about 10 folk in the church because of the storm. The pastor hasn't turned up, he's not been able to get there. Everyone's kind of looking around at each other, wondering what should happen, when eventually one man says, right, I'll do it. There needs to be some kind of message this morning, but I won't have much to say. So Charles is watching as this man takes to the pulpit, and he reads simply from Isaiah 45:22. Look unto me and be saved, all the ends of the earth. The man's not a preacher, so he keeps it straightforward, to the point. He says, this is a simple text indeed. It says we just need to look. That's it. We don't need to lift a foot. We don't need to lift a finger. We just need to look. Even a child can do that. Anyone can. Look unto me, he said, talking about Jesus. Many of us are trying to look unto ourselves, but the text says, look unto me. Look unto me as I become human for you. Look unto me as I am beaten for you. Look unto me as I'm nailed to a cross for you. Look unto me as I die for you. Look for what you've done. Look unto me as I rise for you, so that death no longer holds you. Look unto me as I free you. Charles Spurgeon says the man saw him sitting under the gallery, recognised him as a stranger, and said, young man, you look very miserable. And you will be if you don't listen to this text. It's not asking you to do anything difficult. You don't need to be anything, do anything, except look to Jesus and live. Charles says, the blow struck home and I saw it at once. I'd been looking to do 50 things and find God, but this word, look at him, it struck home. I looked and I looked until I could almost have looked my eyes away, and I knew I was saved. So, when we ask that question, what must I do to be saved on that day of Christ? Sometimes we mistakenly do think about what we need to do, how we can earn it, how we can be ready, but actually, lots of us know the answer. Maybe you're hearing it for the first time today, but what must I do to be saved? The answer is simply believe in what Jesus has done. What must I do to be saved? Simply believe in what Jesus has already done for you. Salvation is free, it's available to all, and Paul knows this when he's writing Philippians. He's looked unto Jesus. And that changes things. It's a bit like if we think about maybe 4 prisoners who are waiting to go back into the courtroom at the end of their trial to hear their verdict. It's been delayed maybe, so they were expecting it in the morning, it's now after lunch. So they're in the courthouse waiting cell, they're pacing about, watching the clock, just waiting and waiting. But one of those prisoners has already had a whisper. He knows someone in the courthouse, he knows someone who already knows the verdict, and so they've slipped him his verdict earlier. He's been found innocent, he's being set free today. So he still has the same weight as the other 3, but what he does with that time, how he feels, how he behaves, It's going to be totally different because he knows the outcome already. And that's like us as Christians. When we think about the day of Christ and whatever circumstances we're in just now, we know the outcome. We've been told it. We can be absolutely certain and confident in it. We know that we are being judged by what Jesus has done, not by what we have done, and that we are free. So that perspective totally changes Paul's experiences of being in prison or of all the suffering that he goes through in his life. That is what is getting him through what he's going through. Let's finish by just thinking about how that changes his kind of day-to-day life in a practical way, and how it might change ours. So in Philippians chapter 3 verse 20, Paul says, "But our citizenship is in heaven. We eagerly await our Saviour from there." Again, that is where his focus is just now, even while he is in prison, is in lockdown on earth. But it also shows us how that changes his mindset practically day to day. He knows himself guaranteed to be a citizen of heaven. So being a citizen of heaven, we know what that means for the day of Christ, and we know how we become one. But how does that practically change our day-to-day lives just now? How does it help us to get through what we are going through? Okay, so lots of you know, because we don't shut up about holidays, that we spent the summer before last in Japan. It's one of our favourite places I've ever been. We loved everything. The food, the culture, the food, the people, the food, the history, Disneyland, the food. It had it all for us. But Japan has really, really strict citizenship laws, and that's okay, because if we were ever going back, we would just be going back to visit. But I was kind of thinking about this idea of citizenship of heaven and citizenship in different countries and what that looks like, because their citizenship is distinctive and it comes with lots of clear characteristics. So I want you to imagine for me, someone from Japan was visiting Scotland in March, and suddenly we went into lockdown. Not just us, half the planet did. And so they're now here temporarily, having to live through lockdown with us until they can get home, but they're still citizens of Japan. And this Japanese citizenship, it'll matter to them. It'll still impact the way that they live, even though they're here. So first of all, for example, probably they will choose to stick to a similar diet that they normally would when they were at home, which is very different from ours. So huge portions of fish and veg, very little red meat, very little sugar. These are the foods that their body knows that provides them with energy and nourishment. And so in the same way, as citizens of heaven, how are we making sure that we're getting the nourishment that we need and not just what we need on earth? So we can be taught and fed by our church. We can spend time with God personally and His Word. We can serve. We can spend more and more time with God in prayer. Next, these citizens of Japan, they might keep a similar routine to what they're used to. So lots of us have kind of come to recognise the importance of some sort of routine during this time. And in Japan, your morning routine once you first get up is really, really important and distinctive. And everyone will have a pattern that they follow. It normally involves things like maybe exercising or stretching, a long shower or a trip to the onsen, the tidying of your futon and your living space so that everything's clear for the rest of your day. It's all part of your morning routine, and even if they were in Scotland temporarily, they would certainly try and stick to elements of the routine that worked for them. So what is our routine as citizens of heaven then? How have we built it in and made time for that just now? One thing I think that is important as a citizen of heaven is keeping Sunday distinctive, a separate day, even though we're not getting to physically go to church every week, a day of rest and worship. And so I think it's been brilliant that as a KC family, even though we've got to have like KC Daily and lots of other things happening during the week, that Sundays still have been a really distinctive day for us, and for us to all join together as a church community and worship. Next, for our family of Japanese citizens stuck here in lockdown, what news will they follow? So I'm sure you can imagine, like, even when you're on holiday temporarily, you're still looking at the news at home. So sure, these people might keep track of the BBC website, because it will be important for them to know what phase Scotland are in and what the rules are at that time, and make sure that they're keeping themselves and others safe. But I'm sure that their focus will be firmly fixed on the news in Japan as well. the news of infection in their areas, as well as just the day-to-day news or whatever things they would normally follow there. So similarly, as a citizen of heaven, that doesn't mean that we don't connect to the world around us right now. Of course it's important, it is so important to know what is happening here and engage with that, and to speak up for justice, and to hurt with people and to celebrate with people. You'll know what your priority is every day when you first go online. Do you check the politics? Do you check the sport? Maybe not so much just now, hopefully soon. Do you check the Financial Times? Do you go and watch the daily Nicola Sturgeon update? Do you listen to the random news that people just make up on your Facebook? Fake news? However, as people whose citizenship is in heaven, our real interest is not in how the stock market's doing, or in what the weather is tomorrow, or even in if Motherwell won yesterday. It has to be our real interest, it has to be in what is God up to just now. How is He working in this? How are God's purposes progressing? How can I be involved in that? And that's the news that we need to be paying attention to. Lastly, these citizens of Japan, they might talk to people around them, absolutely, whoever there's kind of whatever hotel they're staying in, or people who'll help them or serve them in shops, but you can be sure that they will be making sure they're making time to catch up with those in their permanent home as well, not just this temporary one. To message them or Zoom them or connect them in some way. And it's the same for us. Of course it's important for us to talk to everybody around us, but it matters as citizens of heaven, because Paul tells us in this book in Philippians 3:17, keep your eyes on those who live as we do. And we'll hear a bit more about that in a couple of weeks with Big Dave, but it's clearly so important throughout Philippians that there's a need to stay connected and in community with others who are also fixing their eyes on God. That was so important to Paul in getting through what he was going through, and so it should be a priority for us as well. Now, if we think about this family stuck here temporarily one last time, people would actually probably know that they were citizens of Japan, or they would maybe at least identify sometimes that they weren't citizens of Scotland, because some of their behaviour would be distinctive to that. So for example, in Western countries like here, there's been quite a lot of issues and debates around the idea of wearing a mask and if it's needed in public, if it doesn't. Whereas, as a citizen of Japan in Scotland during this, they would have been distinctive right at the start, because that's a behaviour that they would have been doing automatically from the very beginning, because that's just culturally part of what they do in flu season. It's nothing unusual, and they would have stuck to it straight away. So people sometimes know stuff about your citizenship or who you are or what you're like by your actions and your interests and how you use your time. I was actually thinking about this a few weeks ago. We played a game on the KC Facebook. It was kind of like a KC through the keyhole thing, and I was thinking about how for some people's houses, so they were quite vague, it was to try and make it a wee bit difficult, but for some people's houses there was a really high percentage of people would get it right. So for example, John Early's living room, there must be something distinctive about that you all knew that was him. Nearly 100% of people got it right. So if you didn't get to play it, I'll show you. One of these photos that you're seeing just now is John Early's living room, and one is mine, or maybe more accurately, it's set up as Dave's in this photo. Now I'm pretty confident that you will know who is who from these photos. You know who is who because you know them, their activities, their hobbies, their behaviour. So how would someone know that you were a citizen of heaven just now? How would that be distinctive about you? And I think that those behaviours that we've just talked about play a big part in that. Heavenly citizenship doesn't mean that we aren't of earthly use. It doesn't mean that we don't fully engage with people who are here, or that what matters here doesn't matter to us. Paul was always truly with and impacting those around him. He wasn't distant or unrelatable because of his heavenly citizenship. But lockdown has kind of caused us to have to give up some things in the past few months. Lots of parts of living on earth that maybe we felt like we needed. So maybe things like the drive and satisfaction that we got from getting to do certain parts of our job well. Fun things like eating out, shopping, going to the gym, all things that are really, really good. But there is a warning in Philippians, and maybe just during this time when we've got a bit more space, it is an important time to reflect and take heed of this. Paul mentions what happens when we're only prioritising these things. You can see here in verse 19. When our God is our stomach, or our mind is set on earthly things, on our career, on our social life, on our status, our travel, on the things that we get to buy and own. Was there any of those things that I had become too dependent on? Were we trying to satisfy ourselves with them? Maybe during lockdown we need to use this as an opportunity to realise or to remind ourselves that everything that we need, only God can satisfy. So, how do we get through what we're going through in this first week? How can we, like Paul, rejoice in all times, in times of difficulty, in times of challenge, in times of suffering, in day-to-day life? Well, even though Paul was in lockdown, he was free. If the meaning of your life, the greatest love, the great hope is your career or your relationships or your status or your property, then suffering can devastate us because it can remove that. Whereas if, like Paul, our greatest love, our greatest hope is God, his love, knowing that he's made us a citizen of heaven and being totally confident in his saving, sustaining grace, then suffering can only ever be a temporary thing because none of that can be taken away. Paul is able to rejoice in the situation that he writes to the Philippians from because he knows that his freedom is absolutely guaranteed. He is living with an eternal perspective in light of his heavenly citizenship. And we also know that we are free, and so we too can rejoice. Let's pray together to finish. God, thank you for using Paul's words to remind us of true freedom. We want that. We want his perspective of looking at situations from an eternal perspective and knowing that ultimately we are free. Thank you that Jesus died for me so that by grace I am now a child of God and I've been given a citizenship of heaven through him. We see the way that this grace sustains Paul through times of challenge, and we ask that you help it sustain us, that we may know what things truly matter in our life, that only you can ever satisfy, and that you can help us fix our eyes on that eternal perspective so that it might change our perspective on today as well. Amen.
Hi, I'm Elsie.
And I'm Scott, and it's our privilege to share communion with you today. As we were reflecting on what communion is all about and why we do it, the verses in Corinthians came to mind where Paul was reminding the church at Corinth what Jesus himself said about communion. 1 Corinthians 11 verse 23 says, "The same night in which he, that is Jesus, was handed over, he took bread and gave thanks. Then he distributed it to the disciples and said, 'Take it and eat your fill. It is my body which is given for you. Do this to remember me.' He did the same with the cup of wine after supper and said, 'This cup seals the new covenant with my blood. Drink it, and whenever you drink this, do it to remember me.'"
So Jesus says we've to take the wine and we've to take the bread to remember him. As humans, we have a tendency to forget. As time passes and memories begin to fade, clarity of the memory can become vague and we might even forget. We just need to look at the Old Testament stories of the Israelites who often forgot God's faithfulness and provision for them. And then there was a story in the New Testament of the 10 lepers that Jesus healed. And of the 10, only one remembered to come back and thank Jesus. I'm sure the other 9 were really thankful, but they were so caught up in the joy of their healing that they actually forgot to come back and say thank you. Last year, Scott and I were in Auschwitz at the concentration camp, and at the end of the tour guide finished off by saying to us, "We must never forget what's happened here and in other camps like it. And when you go home, you should tell your children, and your children should tell their children. We must never forget." We might even think that we will never forget the challenge of the coronavirus, all that we've had to deal with. But as time passes, that memory too will probably begin to fade of just exactly how challenging it's been. One of the ways that we ensure that these memories are not lost is that we take time to remember. Throughout the year, there are various dates when we pause to remember things that have happened in the past. Jesus knew our capacity to forget, and that we need to actively choose to remember him and to remember what he's done. And so he himself instituted what we call communion as something that would help us to actually pause and take time and remember what he done for us on Calvary, that his body was broken and that his blood was poured out, that he sacrificed his life to give us life. So this morning we're going to take the opportunity again to remember all that Jesus did for us.
So now let's give thanks for the bread. Father God, we thank you for your Son Jesus. We thank you for his precious body, his body that was broken and bruised and beaten for us and to save us from an eternal hell. And we just lift up the name of Jesus now, and we give him praise and honour for all that he has done for us. Amen.
Thank you.
So let's now give thanks for the wine. Father God, we again thank you so much for your Son Jesus. We thank you for his precious life. We thank you for his precious blood that was shed for us and was poured out for us, that our sins might be completely blotted out and completely forgiven. We just again lift high his name and give you all the praise and all the honour and all the worship and all the glory. Amen.
Amen.
So thank you very much for sharing communion with us today, and just leaves me to say have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone needs compassion, love that's never failing. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of a Savior, the hope of nations. And Savior, he can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, he rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Take me as you find me, all my fears and failures. Fill my life again. I give my life to follow everything I believe in. Now I surrender. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, he rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine the light and let the whole world sing. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Shine the light and whole world sing. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Shine the light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. And the Savior, He can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave, Savior and Savior. He can move the mountain. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save forever. Author of salvation, He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave.
Thanks for being with us today. If you're new to the church and haven't watched this via the website, then please visit us on the web address below. If you're watching this via YouTube, don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notified when new videos are uploaded. We'd also love to hear from you, so if you want to get in touch, then please use hello@connect.co.uk, and if you have any prayer requests for our leadership team, then email on prayer@connect.co.uk. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I hope you feel encouraged and challenged, and have a fantastic week, and we will see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye.